everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of Mish's Market Minute. I am your host, Mish Schneider, and I'd like to thank StockCharts TV for giving me this opportunity week after week to bring you not only my thoughts on the overall market, a particular sector, but packed with actionable information. So considering what's been trending this week, I thought today we would cover all things EV. And for those of you who may have been living under a rock somewhere, EV stands for electric vehicles. There were a couple of interesting fundamental points that came out this week that I'd just like to bring your attention to. And by the way, I will also discuss lithium because you can't have EVs without lithium. So number one is Biden brought attention this week to what was a pretty beat up sector. As you know, just looking at Tesla alone, it's gone way down. And all of a sudden, everybody was looking at Michael Burry as some kind of big hero. He's the big short guy who has been selling Tesla thinking that it's going to crash. Well, I don't think so. Number two is possible tax credits for EV owners. There already are some, and that is a trend that's going to continue. There's also talk that as we get into electric vehicle buses and trucks, etc., that we would get possible subsidies from the federal government for EV. So basically, the government is really helping to support the idea of electric vehicles going forward. And once again, as I always like to say to people, is this is when it really pays for you to keep your politics out of your trading, whether you're into it or you're not into it, and just look at the fact that regardless of what language that I've heard on both sides about what Biden did, driving around in the Ford vehicle the other day, the point is that it brought attention to a sector. And that's what gets me as a trader most interested. And then finally, the point I want to make was that there's been a whole bunch of surveys, but one of the surveys I saw recently I thought was interesting in that there was a good percentage, I think like 30% or so, of people who said that they would consider an electric vehicle if gas goes beyond $4 a barrel. Not $4 a barrel, $4 a gallon. And there is doubles in terms of people interested in EVs if gas goes to over $5 a gallon. So a lot of the future, of course, is going to really be determined by how much gas prices go up. And as we know, gas prices were way up with the pipeline. They've come off since then, although I still managed to pay $3.89 for premium here in Santa Fe, one of the lowest tax states, for a gallon yesterday, which was not pretty. Okay, so now let's go on here to the symbols that I'm going to cover. We're going to go through some of those symbols first that deal with lithium. So you can see some of these here, including rare earth minerals, and then we're going to switch over to the rest will be cars, ending really basically with Luminar, which is more involved with autonomous driving technology. But you're going to get a good broad spectrum here of different charts and actionable information to consider. Okay, so let's start here with lithium. This is the ETF, LIT. And what's interesting about this is, once again, I love to point out the real motion and how well real motion has helped us getting into instruments or avoiding getting into instruments when we see a divergence, as we see here. So even though lithium has popped back over the 50-day moving average, actually late last week, and has gotten some follow through and filled this little gap here, which I always think is positive, we're still waiting for the momentum here to give us something. It's right now trading below the 50-day moving average in real motion indicator, but the momentum has come back. So what we'd like to see really at this point, in order for lithium to actually take off and start to look at anywhere near the highs that we were making back in these levels right here, we would want to see that momentum actually start to play a little bit of catch up. And in terms of leadership, it's really kind of neck and neck with the benchmark. So that's lithium on the radar, but not necessarily screaming buy to me. If we go to the Lithium Americas Corporation, I find this to be pretty interesting. Remember, I've talked to you so many times now through the months about these reversal patterns. So you had a new 60-day low right here, followed by an inside day with a confirmation this day that it actually did reverse. However, you can see as I'm talking to you, this is actually back down below that 200-day moving average, may not stay there. So what we would be looking for right here is what happens over the next couple of days. Do we hold this 200 or not? Do we go back down to about 1250? And if we do and don't take out this low here at 1184, you could have another opportunity to get in. Now, on the flip side here, the momentum indicators are also still weak. We're just now clearing back over the zero line. Look where your 200 is versus in the price, and your 50 is all the way down here. So again, patience with this one, but it could turn out to be, if the reversal pattern holds, this 1184 is good, I would keep my eyes on for another opportunity. And of course, the leadership also a little bit under the benchmark, but not too bad. So this could be setting up, not yet. Okay, next one is Albemarle, which is also dealing with lithium. And again, look at the weakness on the momentum. Look at the underperformance here against the benchmark versus the price, which is sitting on the 50-day moving average. So again, what we want to see is some level of confirmation. Now, if I knew nothing about real motion, I'd be telling you right now, go ahead and buy this. But because the momentum is actually down as opposed to up, I would give this another day or two to see if we can head closer, at least over the Bollinger Band, which are the dots, and ideally back over that 50-day moving average. And if the momentum goes there and the price doesn't get too far away, or even if the price climbs back over, say, 165, you have about a $10 risk at that point to the 50, which isn't so bad. Because if this is going to move, this is going to go up and make new all-time highs. Next one is FMC, another lithium-based company. Now, this one in momentum is doing a little bit better, although it's coming off here and starting to test that 50-day, where this price is also coming closer to the 50-day. So in this case now, considering what I just showed you in the rest of the space, I would probably, first of all, look at this. It's totally underperforming the benchmark. I'd probably want to give this maybe a day or two to see if it holds the 50 in real motion. And if it does, notice you're getting an inside day to the range from the day before, which means over 117.45 could give you a good signal against that 50. But remember to regard that momentum. And if that's the case, then you've got about a $3 or $4 risk on a big stock like this. Is not so bad to see if this thing can take out recent highs and then maybe go on to new highs. Next one, SQM, is really showing some stress here. So this looks like it may be Brazilian. I'm not sure if South American or Brazilian in particular. But look at that. So this is why these momentum indicators have to be respected, in that while this was dancing around the 50, the momentum here was starting to decline. And now you can see it's been a big old crap out here. And of course, it's showing way underperformance against the benchmark. So I wouldn't necessarily touch this. In fact, if anything, I would have possibly been talking about a short here. But now what we want to see as we getting into some historical chart patterns, what happens here around 40? And in this case, we would want to look for some kind of a 60-day plus new low with some kind of confirmation, whether either an inside day and then it takes out the high of the outside day, or it has a one-day new low and then the next day goes much higher. Then I would at least also, and I would suspect that we'd see that momentum get back over that zero line. Right now, though, I wouldn't touch it. And finally, in the lithium space is MP. This was a SPAC that turned into a stock with Mountain Pass. Now, we don't have a lot of information here. This was a relatively new issue. As I said, this was a SPAC. But we can see momentum at least bouncing off of the zero line, but still underperforming. And the market itself bouncing here off of this 200-day moving average. We actually in our RIA have a position here, but we do not in terms of the market gauge service, MGAM, not the MGAM service, excuse me, the Advantage service. But I am looking to get into this, and I would have no hesitations to buy this if this holds up and maybe takes out around that 28 level. And then you have a pretty good risk to under that 200-day moving average. So this is probably one of my favorites of everything that I've shown you so far. Okay, so now let's take a look at Tesla. Of course, Tesla is always the first one to look at in the EV space. Look at this, same thing. While this was still holding above its 50-day moving average, the momentum started to break down really near the top. So if you don't think real motion is reliable and something that you may want to consider adding to your tools, here is great proof that while people may have been rushing to buy this near $900 a share, real motion was telling you, not so fast. Well, now what we have here is a potential reversal bottom. This new 60+ day low has to close over 566.21 in order for that to confirm. So the day is still young on the day I'm talking to you. But we also want to see something happening here with momentum, which right now is below that zero line. So I wouldn't rush into anything right here, especially when you have the resistance at the 200-day moving average. And you can see that at least that the relative performance against the benchmark is starting to flatten out. From there, if we go to NEO, now what's interesting about NEO, same kind of thing, by the way, this broke down under the 50 way back here while the price was still above. Now, if we move all the way to here, this did not have as clean a pattern like we just saw with Tesla. It made a new 60-day low, had an inside day, but the next day it did not take that out. So maybe if it clears 35, you might see something interesting here, but the momentum again is showing me stay away until we get past that zero line. So far, the whole industry, even with the attention that we just received from Biden administration on it, is not really wowing us here, at least not with these instruments that we're looking at right now. Now with XL, we have another company, EV company, that had a new 60-day low and eked out a confirmation, because this high right here was 594, and this day it closed, well, the high was 602. I don't really have a closing price here, but it looked like it may have eked out a reversal pattern. And now we're back above the line here on the Bollinger Band, but we're still nowhere above the 50. Again, maybe this would wind up being the most interesting if we can get a divergence, which would mean that we'd want to see at least the momentum move over the 50, even though the price hasn't. And then I would start at least paying attention. And I'd probably say this really at this point needs to clear 7. And then perhaps I would start to get maybe a smaller position with a risk to under this low here at 541. But again, I'd really be keeping my eye here on that indicator. But XL is probably more interesting than the others because the risk reward looks so clear. Now, if we look at XPeng also new 60-day low and didn't confirm the next day, and that's moving up. Of course, I didn't see that. And again, new issue, so we have no real motion, but you can see we're starting to take leadership here. So with this now, I wouldn't want to chase because the risk is all the way down to 22.73. That's almost $7 away. However, if we get any kind of dip closer to, say, 27, I would certainly take a chance, or at this point, wait to see if we can clear this 50-day moving average. But this also looks very good to me. Workhorse is another one. Now, what I like about Workhorse is that it looks like we are potentially trying to get some kind of movement in the momentum here, but it still has to clear that that Bollinger Band and then that 50. And again, if we get some kind of divergence where this shows positive while this is still trying to figure it out, we did get a reversal pattern here with a new low and then a move above it and a close above it the next day. Again, also this is now down, but if we can get through, let's say 50, that would be more interesting to me. But once again, you really want to see this actually not only hold here, but you want to see the momentum start to move up as well. Okay, next one is Ford. Now, Ford also looks great, right? Over the 50-day moving average. But take a look here at this real motion. Yeah, it cleared the Bollinger Band, but it still can't seem to get over this 200-day moving average, which it is clearly above here on the chart, let alone the 50-day moving average, although it is showing leadership. So again, I like this, but I still want to see at least some momentum before I'm going to start plunking down money. Either that, I'd like to see this actually maybe take another trip a bit lower. But overall, I can tell you on the longer term charts, as long as Ford holds 11, it does look really, really good longer term. Now, the next one is General Motors. And General Motors here also weak in momentum, weak in performance, but also at least not above the 50. So we're not really getting a major divergence here, although this is below the 200 while this is above. And again, all these stocks are just really interesting to me. They're not really giving us much love here, although this did make, I don't know, is that a 60-day low? That may be close to a 60-day low. We're not really seeing any major reversal pattern. So it's very simple with this. Let's wait to see if this can get back over the 50. And at that point, what happens with the momentum at the same time? Next one is CCIV. And this is Churchill. This also used to be a SPAC, and also not enough information here to give us any real motion indicator, but we could see now it's neck and neck with leadership. And again, not a clean reversal pattern, new 60-day low inside day, but didn't close high enough. So these are the type of things that just in terms of process of elimination, I generally tend to avoid if I don't have a clean reversal signal. But nonetheless, if it does break down again under this low and then comes back, so if it breaks down under 17 and then has a reversal pattern, I would keep my eye on Churchill for sure. Next thing is another one, QS. Now this is Quantumscape. Now Quantumscape also, if we take a look at this, it's close. We had a new 60-day low here, but doesn't look like it necessarily got clean enough to close above that high like it needed to. Not enough indication here for a real motion indicator, and also not showing leadership. So what are we seeing straight across the board? For a sector that's supposed to have so much interest going forward, it's still really, really underperforming. Now here's another one. This is Fiskar. Now Fiskar also did not have a clean reversal pattern in that it had a new low inside day and the next day it didn't confirm. We do not wait 2 days unless it was 2 inside days, which didn't happen. So now we can see this turning lower. And again, momentum, no big deal. So let's keep an eye on this. I'd like to see maybe another move down closer to 10. Then I'd feel better. Or at least I'd like to see this momentum start to gain in traction. So all of these, considering the future, not so great. Maybe Tesla, the best one of all. Let's go to Kandi Technologies. Again, no legitimate reversal pattern, new 60-day low inside day, but didn't confirm. Now, of course, a very cheap stock right here. 2 big double tops here, by the way, back in the future. I mean, back in the past. And now we got, again, momentum weak, not even getting through the Bollinger Band, but not so far from the 50. So I would look for some kind of a maybe divergence here, and we can keep an eye on these going forward. But right now, again, maybe if we take out 440 and then turn back around, it would be interesting, but not showing us much love here. And then finally, we have LAZR, Luminar. So this is, I mentioned to you, is the company that makes autonomous driving technology. Now, of course, we're not at autonomous technology yet, but right now what we can see here is that it's coming back down. This did have a legitimate reversal pattern, by the way, right here, so that's good. If we can get closer, let's say to 17, 18, then maybe I'd be more inclined. But again, look at our momentum still under the 0 line, well above the under the 200 and well above under the 50. But nonetheless, if this can turn back over the 0 line and we can get this back over the 200, you wouldn't necessarily have to wait for a dip that much because it is confirmed. Maybe just a couple of closes back over this 200 could get you in, and then you could just put in a tight stop and see if momentum. So far, this one may be one of my favorite. And just to review, Tesla, although, as I mentioned, the momentum is not great, it could play catch up, and that's okay. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to wait for momentum to gather, but it's so close to the 0 line, you could give it another day. But more importantly, if it closes above that 566.21, at the very least, you are getting a confirmed reversal signal. And then, of course, I would say your next battle is this 200-day moving average, which comes in at 589.61, not that far away considering this as a stock. So that's it. So all in all, this could be a good future growth area, but for right this moment in time, there's still a lot of pressure here in these instruments. So I would keep an eye on them going forward, and we can have another look, at least review some of the top ones that I mentioned today next week. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.